We hear a lot of talk these days about the quote-unquote new normal. What will the new normal be when COVID-19 passes? What will the new normal be when all the protests have ended? I'm not sure I can answer that question because, honestly, I'm not sure if I know what the old normal was. Seems to me that life is always changing. You're single, that's normal. Then you get married, there's a new normal. You move to a new town, a new normal. You take a new job, a new normal. You have a child, there's a new normal. Your hair turns gray. Suddenly people in their 40s start calling you, sir, a new normal, not a good one. You get sick, suddenly. The sickness doesn't go away, a new normal. You lose a really close friend or a family member, a new normal. The list could go on of drastic and not so drastic changes that come into our lives on a daily basis. In this life, it seems to me that the only thing that is normal is change. And yet you and I seek normal. And by normal, I think we probably mean dependable, something we can count on. And so we say to ourselves, if my days are always like this, day after day, then I can figure out how I should live. But we may be seeking something that God doesn't have for us. You know, when God delivered his people from the slavery of Egypt, he gave them a new normal. But normal wasn't really normal. When you are hungry in the desert, you don't expect bread to fall from the sky. That's not normal, but it was normal for God's people. When you're thirsty in the desert, you don't expect water to come gushing from a rock. That's not normal, but it was normal for them. Normal did not mean for God's people waking up in the morning and doing what they wanted to do. Scripture says this, throughout all their journeys, whenever the cloud was taken up from the tabernacle, the people of Israel would set out. But if the cloud was not taken up, then they did not set out until the day that it was taken up. For the cloud of the Lord was on the tabernacle by day, and the fire was in it by night, in the sight of all the house of Israel throughout all their journeys. And so when God said, move, they moved. And when God said, stay, they stayed. So normal for God's people simply meant following the Lord. He led, they followed. Our call, your call, my call, as God's people hasn't really changed. For us, normal in our lives must be following the Lord through whatever he determines our days should look like. As followers of Christ, we must take our place behind the Lord as he leads us. I'm going to stop the video now and give you a few questions to think about before we get into the passage. The first one is this: how do you define normal? Secondly, describe what a normal life looks like for you. Thirdly, why do you seek normal? When you seek normal, what are you really seeking? How would your life look different if your only expectation for normal was following Christ? When you've had an opportunity to think through or answer aloud some of those questions, I'm going to ask you to read the passage. No surprise, we're back in John chapter 21, verses 18 through 22. So when you've answered those questions, when you've read again the word of the Lord, let's come back together and continue to talk about what it means to follow Christ.